Israeli tech ecosystem is super resilient, and so are the Israeli entrepreneurs. Innovation centers, R&D centers, this all helps drive both the commercial traction of startups and investment into these startups. We provide a lot of strategic value add to these investors. These are investors that their priority for making such an investment into Israel is not necessarily just as a financial investment.
Ron Levitzky, thanks for being on IsraelTech. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm good.
So for those that don't know, you're the general partner, one of the co-founders here at Magenta VC, in your great offices here in Herzliya. So what exactly does Magenta do? How are you guys different from other VCs?
Yeah, so we're quite unique in the landscape, I would say. First of all, it's about our story. So first of all, we are, you could say, an Israeli-Japanese collaboration. That's even why we're named Magenta. So Magenta is actually a mix of blue and red. So you take the Israeli flag, of course.
Oh, that's Japanese. So cute. I didn't think of that.
And that's why we named the fund Magenta to symbolize this
Not
relationship.
Purple?
Well, actually, if, I'm sort of like started off in computer science and more geeky. So if you go to the RGB definition of Magenta, it's actually 50% blue and 50% red. So it was the exact symbol for this partnership. And how we came to be. So basically, this partnership, on one hand, is a company called Mitsui, which is very well known globally. It's one of the largest Japanese general trading companies, and they have been actually very much bullish on Israel for many years. They are one of the first large Japanese companies to open a permanent office in Israel back in the 90s. And they had also their own corporate VC that they invested from in Israel, had people on the ground here. But they are really, I would say, forward thinkers, and they wanted to evolve that model. And the next sort of evolution of that would be by actually partnering with Israelis from the VC ecosystem, and together with them found a new VC that would be financially focused, and at the same time use that as a platform, of course, to bring additional investors, all of them Japanese, which is what we did together. So basically, at some point, just before we started, of course, Mitsui reached out to myself and my partner.
Who's your partner?
My partner is Ori Israeli. So he's
a good last name.
Yeah, exactly. You can't miss where he's from. He's actually a VC industry veteran. He's been in the for more than 2 decades in the VC landscape in Israel. Started back in Giza, which was one of the first funds in the Yozma program. And later on, just before we started Magenta, he was running the whole CVC activity of Motorola in Israel and in Europe. I, at the time, was part of the Viola Ventures team for about 3.5 years. We actually sit in the same building now, but we can tell that story later. So we partnered together. We added additional investors just as LPs, not part of the partnership. All of them are Japanese public companies, and sort of the unique model that we have is that we provide a lot of strategic value add to these investors. These are investors that, their priority for making such an investment into Israel is not necessarily just as a financial investment. They would have had maybe other options if they just wanted to, invest for financial gain. They want to capture all the value out of the Israeli innovation ecosystem. One such investor, as an example, which is like public information, is a company called Koito Manufacturing. Koito Manufacturing is one of the largest tier ones for automotive lighting, if not the largest. They have, I think, more than 25% market share globally. So, if you think about a company like that and, how they see their product roadmap, they're very much interested to know about startups that creating the next type of sensors, next type of, edge computation, all sorts of material-related innovations. So, being able to capture the Israeli ecosystem is a no-brainer for them. So We are working very closely with such investors. We also have, in some cases, one of their employees coming and relocating here and being part of our team on daily basis. We basically make sure they cover everything that's going on in Israel, even if it's, of course, also when it's companies that are not necessarily fit for our investment criteria. In terms of investing, we focus on early stage companies, only Israeli related. Usually it's around Series A. We usually invest up to 5 million for a first check and then do follow-on investments. We are usually the lead investors. We have 14 companies in our portfolio to date. Most of these investments, we led the investment. We are actively engaged there. We have board seats. I also want to mention that from the Mitsui side, we also have a partner called Masaji. He is temporarily back in Japan, of course, because of everything that's going on since October. But even before that, he was living here with his family nearby, as well as some other teams. So we have also an associate in the team coming from Mitsui and relocated here, living in Tel Aviv. We have people coming over, as I mentioned, from some of our investors. So we're Israeli-Japanese team, but based here. The decision making is done here, and we invest only in the Israeli-related companies.
So you were saying that you guys are Japanese, but how did you get into that? Like, how did you find these Japanese partners that wanted to come here? Did they seek you out? Explain to me, like, how does one get involved with a company in the Far East here in Israel?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll give Mitsui the credit for actively wanting to partner with Israelis from the ecosystem. So eventually they actually the one that reached out, and then we tried to.
What year was this?
This was during 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Then we sort of shaped the whole sort of how we're gonna approach this and how we're gonna eventually build this. And then once we partner, we continued to basically do fundraising and bring additional investors into the fund.
And so they reached out to you, or like, how does the community? I don't understand. Did you reach out to them?
No.
Were they just see like?
Well, obviously I wasn't aware of their sort of initiative, so they decided to actively reach out to identify who they would like to partner with in the ecosystem.
What makes you a good partner? Do you think that they reached out to you?
Well, first of all, I think when it comes to working with Japanese, first the people want to identify that you're credible. You come with the right experience. Japanese really think long term about partnering. You can get that feedback when we discuss with companies who have Japanese as customers. Those that work with them on investment, nothing is really quick and short. So I think they wanted to identify people who show a commitment to seeing the vision. And when it comes to my side and my view of that, and I imagine that Ori would say a lot of a similar sort of feedback. We've seen a lot of opportunity here, creating something new, not necessarily just another fund looking to invest in early stage, but come with something that is, first of all, very unique on the global, on the larger view on Israel, bring in a lot of access to Japan. So, while it's not necessarily a criteria for us that the company we invest in would look for a go-to-market to Japan, where it's applicable, and for many domain areas it is, we sort of open the door to help a lot of Israeli startups to access and engage with Japan. And also the type of investors that we brought in that I mentioned are more strategic in nature. So it's not necessarily the same Japanese LPs that some of the financial funds around here have. We are bringing investors who want to also engage with the ecosystem, so that creates opportunity for all sorts of partnerships, proof of concept, design partnering. So that is a unique aspect, and I can say, that even there are some specific companies that some of the initial discussion with them that led to us investing in them was this Japanese angle, because when it comes to investing, usually you don't want to meet the company just when they're fundraising right now, right? You want to have certain relationships. So this sort of unique Japanese angle that we have really creates lots of conversation with entrepreneurs.
So one of the things Japanese are good at is logistics and supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Six Sigma came out of there. And
yes.
Obviously, they're known for the automotives, and
right.
There's a lot going on there with efficiency. What are you guys doing at Magenta specifically with logistics and supply chain? And are you able to take like the expertise of the Japanese market through Magenta and apply that to the startups that you're involved in?
Yeah, so first of all, when it comes to us evaluating companies that are potential for investments for us, it's a really great benefit to have strategic investors that are related to the domain, giving us the access to their knowledge and feedback. So specifically in logistics, we recently made an investment in a company called Census. That is a company that is manufacturing basically trackable cellular labels. So think about like an AirTag, but completely self-sustaining. It's like basically a battery with cellular chip and a GPS, and you can put it on a box and track it for 2 years around the world.
Wow.
Know if someone dropped it, know if someone opened it,
wow.
know if it was maybe exposed to extreme heat. So imagine a pharmaceutical company that has to ship lots of medicine, or if it's an
and this is an Israeli company.
Yes.
And you bring the Japanese experience or expertise into it, or
yeah.
No, or is it more that they're more interested in investing in these things because they have their
So first of all, ironically, that company is a spin out from Sony, which by itself is Japanese.
Oh, really? I was
going to. It's in Israel, like Altair. But we helped make a lot of relevant introduction in Japan and secure maybe feedback from the market, find out if you have product market fit, and also better identify use case. We invest in early stage companies that are just starting their go-to-market. In many cases, the priority is to go for Europe or the US, but in some areas like supply chain, there's global interest,
right,
and global fit, and there's not so many challenges that has to do with localization. For example, if you wanted to do like a marketing tech or ed tech product. So finding out who would be your trusted partner and channel, and leveraging the network of our investors. For example, Mitsui is globally connected, of course, and they have north of 16, 17, 18 different business units. It really allows us to get validation, and when we double down on an investment, to help them succeed.
Let me tell you about our partners, WadiDigital.com, the technology marketing agency. If you're a startup or a tech company that needs marketing help, bring in leads that actually convert into opportunities, then this is your real partner. They even help us and many other technology companies with advertising, SEO, social media, influencer marketing, and video editing, just like they do for us here at IsraelTech. So what are you waiting for? Take your marketing to the next level and reach out to Wadi Digital. And now back to the show.
So before Magenta, you were working at Viola. Viola is totally Israeli.
Yes.
What's the difference between working one that's totally Israeli or half Israeli, half Japanese? Is there a significant difference when you're partnering with another nationality?
Yeah, I think one difference is, imagine yourself in a, fully Israeli team, and having entrepreneurs coming in, and it's just like two co-founders and a deck. I think a completely Israeli team maybe has easier time assessing sort of the entrepreneurs and sort of the vibe, the competency, because it's Israelis and Israelis, right? I think when you work in an international team, you try to be a bit more tangible. You want to find more data-driven sort of proof to your assumption about the team. So I think the earlier stage in an international partnership is it's maybe a bit more challenging to get maybe a consensus about about the founders and the team, because the later stage you're going to round A, the company already proved maybe MVP and have some customers, right? And if it's a B round or later, it's all about the numbers, right? And cohorts and everything. So we are, because we are sort of in the Series A phase, I think it sits well into sort of compensate for having an international team meet Israeli founders. There's always data points to support why we would like to invest differently from maybe funds. Viola, of course, also is usually historically Series A, right? But if comparing to a seed fund, I think there's more of a leap of faith coming from the investors that is easier to have when it's like an all Israeli team.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Where do you prefer to work? Don't worry, no one, you won't offend anyone, I promise.
Well, first of all, my days at Viola were a great learning experience. That was for me the entry point to the VC ecosystem. I've been in this ecosystem for about almost 10 years now, and so being in a team such as Viola at the time, and very experienced partners who themselves were successful entrepreneurs before, that's is sort of like a second MBA, right? And a crash course to VC. So I think I was very fortunate to have that as the entry point to the VC, and I took a lot of things with me and applied them at Magenta.
So we were talking earlier that obviously Israel dominating cybersecurity comes from the military. And Israel's strength in AI comes from the universities, mostly PhDs. We're talking far more senior people, much older.
Right.
Why is that? Why can't we bring AI into AI education at the PhD level into the Israel Defense Forces?
Yeah. So first of all, I think a lot of people who deal with cybersecurity in the army, they apply their knowledge to solving a lot of issues related to certain threats, whether there's something they want to do, proactively for all sorts of purposes, and it's it might use a lot of different AI algorithms when it comes to do language understanding. So it's a lot about the application. But when you look into how you create the next technologies underlying AI, for example, large language models and things around that, that is usually requiring a lot of advanced education. You need people who are doing their masters in computer science or PhD, and sometimes a lot of innovation comes from a thesis of a PhD, right? And not necessarily from the 20-year-old at 8200 that is very, very good at applying a technology and creating some new cyber capability. So I think while Israel has created a very large cyber ecosystem and a lot of track record when it comes to large exits and large investments, and having the cybersecurity is a very big portion of any numbers reports that you see around the Israeli ecosystem. In order to succeed and drive new innovations in the underlying AI capabilities, not necessarily applications of AI, like a vertical application like that or enterprise application like that, there needs to be a lot of push in the academia to create the top of the funnel of the talent pool. If you look at some startups that already made a lot of success, and maybe companies, maybe an example is Run AI, right? That NVIDIA is now trying to complete the acquisition of.
This didn't complete it? It was
Not
$700 million, right?
Yeah, 700, but it's not yet done.
Why? What's holding up?
I think, first of all, in the US these days, a lot of M&As are being scrutinized.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's not like a clear cut. Everything is being very much assessed, and that NVIDIA acquisition is not yet done.
Antitrust?
In some cases,
that's what I'm hearing. A lot of
yeah.
anti-business,
Yeah.
antitrust from the American
Yeah.
White House right now.
Yeah, so it's a challenge. So I don't know the fine details of that case. I just know that it wasn't yet announced as complete. It's being in process. But what I was going to say is that founders of a company like that, at least part of them, if not all of them, are coming from academia. These are people who are doing their PhD and coming out with a new approach to how to solve certain problem around AI, whether it's reducing the resources need to optimize models and all sorts of research that started a few years back, and then they find a way how to fit with the Gen AI wave and NVIDIA CPU and NVIDIA GPUs in their case. But there's just not enough, I think, deal flow that investors see these days that try to go to the core stack of the AI, and mostly you see application of AI, but you see the situation that you have companies like Mistral coming from France, who are doing like one of the leading open source models, and you see I think the CTO of OpenAI, she's from Albania. So all sorts of great talent around the world dealing with the cutting edge AI technologies, and not necessarily coming from Israel. So that's it wasn't just by itself like that. It's a result of gaps in how to drive the innovation ecosystem in AI forward in Israel.
So before we finish up, I'm having a
Yeah.
great time. What are you most optimistic about? What do you see in the future, several years out, about the Israeli tech ecosystem?
Yeah. First, Israeli tech ecosystem is super resilient, and so are the Israeli entrepreneurs. I think that's one of the greatest assets that we have. Entrepreneurs that know, it's a cliche, but how to make lemonade from lemons, how to keep a high frequency, high pace work traction and make that efficient. I think there is a lot of opportunity to reach new highs, but it really the short term is really depending, of course, with the current situation, on the ability to eventually bring back the international delegations, international investors, multinationals, to bring their talent and people on the ground here and build their own new innovation centers, R&D centers. This all helps drive both the commercial traction of startups and investment into these startups. So I just hope for better days and having a very vibrant, growing ecosystem here.
Ron Levitzky, co-founder, general partner of Magenta Venture Partners. Thank you for being on IsraelTech.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.